Daniel had already experienced great visions, supernatural rescues, and prophecies that would cover centuries. But now, in chapter 10, we find a different scene. Daniel isn't before kings, or in the middle of human plots, but under the weight of heavenly glory. The text shows us an old man who spent 3 weeks in a partial fast, staying away from rich foods, meat and wine, and didn't anoint himself with oil. He was looking for understanding and comfort because the nation was still suffering, even after some exiles had returned to Jerusalem. His heart was heavy, but his faith stayed strong. This detail teaches us something powerful. Daniel didn't only seek God in times of outside trouble, but also in moments of inner pain. Prayer and fasting were part of his spiritual life, a path of closeness with the Lord. This shows us that no matter our age or stage of life, it's always time to seek God's face with passion and humility. It was then, on the 24th day of the first month by the Tigris River, that Daniel had an amazing vision. He looked up and saw a man dressed in linen, with a belt of pure gold, whose body shone like beryl. His face was like lightning, his eyes like fiery torches, his arms and legs like polished bronze, and his voice like the sound of a crowd. The description shows a heavenly being of unmatched splendor, and many scholars believe it's Jesus before he became human, while others see him as a very important angel. The truth is, the vision was so amazing that the men with Daniel saw nothing, but they felt a great fear and ran away. Daniel, however, was left alone before the revelation without strength, with his face to the ground. This moment reminds us that being in God's presence always changes a person. The weight of God's glory can shake even the strongest, showing how weak we are compared to God's greatness. While Daniel lay on the ground, unable to even stand up, a hand touched him and gave him strength. The heavenly messenger called him highly esteemed and told him to stand up. These words weren't just to cheer Daniel up, but also to show something deep. God not only sees the hearts of his servants, but he calls them by who they are to him. Heaven knew who Daniel was, not a politician, not just a prophet, but loved by God. This shows us that a faithful servant's identity isn't in earthly titles or positions, but in the Creator's endless love. How many times do we feel weak, unable to go on, crushed by life's pressures? It's in those moments that heaven's voice lifts us up, reminding us that we are loved. This teaches us that Daniel's greatest strength wasn't in his wisdom or discipline, but in the fact that he belonged to God and was supported by his love. The messenger then revealed something amazing. He told Daniel that from the first day he humbled himself before God, his prayer had been heard. But the angel was held back for 21 days by the prince of the kingdom of Persia, a spiritual figure who represents evil forces working against God's plans in the background of history. Only when Michael, one of the chief angels, came to help, was the messenger able to reach Daniel. This passage opens an incredible window into the spiritual world. While Daniel was fasting and praying on earth, an unseen battle was happening in the heavens. This teaches us that, many times, when we don't see an immediate answer to our prayers, it doesn't mean God hasn't heard, but that there's a spiritual war going on. The delay isn't the absence of an answer, but part of a conflict beyond our sight. The message was clear. Daniel was facing something bigger than he could understand. The angel came to reveal what would happen to the people of Israel in the last days. The chapter ends by getting the prophet, and us as readers, ready for even deeper revelations in the next chapters. But here we already get precious truths. Prayer has power in the spiritual world. Fasting opens paths to closeness, and God's love strengthens us when we feel crushed. Daniel, weak before heavenly glory, found strength not in himself, but in the touch of heaven. And we too, in our struggles and waiting, can believe that battles are being fought for us, that angels are moving, and that God never forgets our prayers. So, Daniel chapter 10 isn't just an introduction to the prophecies that follow, but a picture of the spiritual reality we still live in today. Prayer, battle, and victory through God's power. May this message inspire us to keep praying, even when the silence seems long, and to trust that even when we don't see it, God is working for us. If this message spoke to your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to the channel to follow the next chapters of this series on Daniel's life and visions. See you next time.